as you can see, guys, I used Microsoft Sway, if you haven't heard of it, to do a quick little presentation on what we're talking about tonight and where we're going to go. So I hope everybody can hear me well, and I'll get started. So obviously, now we have started by learning to build a campaign with OTP. We've learned how to transfer the files and import the WordPress pages and posts. And some of us have even learned some more advanced techniques such as multi-roles and using social signals and some advanced indexing techniques for those that like to do extra. And some of you have got to be saying, wait a minute, I didn't join OTP to create just a trickle of traffic. I was thinking something more like this, or maybe even this, using dog bones as a representation of traffic. So how do we achieve this dominance? Who can we turn to? Let's go to some grizzled old veterans. Let's get some advice from the creator of this software. Even though he isn't here, I've watched him present to a number of people he was mentoring, and I've done my best to capture what he told them. So this is the exact method that Cliff teaches when he mentors someone. Now I'm going to switch over to PowerPoint. And I want you to realize that there's probably some changes from what you've been doing, what you've been taught, what you were told by someone. And you have to just kind of expect that. Transition is the way it goes. And if you've been here a couple months, you've seen versions change. I don't know how many times. And it seems like we just keep changing how we do things, you know, sometimes in a minor way and sometimes in a major way. Well, we kind of invite you to just accept that. You're using the internet. Internet means rapid change. And whenever I start to get frustrated, I just try to find my gratitude space and realize that, hey, I'm using cutting edge tools. I'm being given the most cutting edge and current solutions even available. So start to do my happy dance, celebrate some, and realize that as part of this process, I get to hang out with some of the coolest people you could want to hang out with. So I want you to realize that if you've been, most of you have been here at least a month. There's a few just coming in, but the ones that have hanging out, you need to realize you guys have weathered some storms. You could have crumbled and haven't. You just kept on going. And now you're starting to become a sharp-edged sword. So the next step, after we acknowledge you for sticking with it, as Cliff always says, if you want to have what most people don't have, you have to do what most people won't do. And so far, you've shown the resolve to do that. When stuff got frustrating or tough, you hang in there, you get some support, and you keep on going. So I need to start with a disclaimer of some sort. As always, this presentation, anytime in the US, if we do a presentation that talks about methods that might make you some money, we have to make sure you understand that in no way have I told you that you're definitely going to make money from doing this. There's too many factors involved that I can't control, such as what niche did you choose, what offering, what product, the attractiveness of your offer. OTP is designed to drive traffic. What you do with that traffic is beyond our control. What my purpose here is today is to show you the methods of maximizing the traffic for an individual offer or niche. Nothing more. All right, so I'm sure you're wanting to know, how do I start? Well, Cliff likes to talk about the 1-10-12 rule. That's what he teaches people. You start with one domain. You're going to end up with, in total, you're actually going to have 12 domains. And they're going to be spread all over the internet. One reason why I tell you to buy at least 10 accounts from Ho60 is because he knows that when he gets a locustware company, each time you buy an account, you'd like it on a different IP address. You don't even have to specify that. And he gives us different class B IP addresses, which are about as spread apart as you're going to be able to get in the internet. So we start with a single domain and we start to build campaigns on it. We're going to use a total of 10 of those domains and continue to spread those campaigns across them. And then we're going to have 2 domains that we set aside for tweaking and testing. And I'll kind of explain that at the end. And even if we don't get a great deal into the tweaking and testing, it's going to take you a few days to really get going on this method. And I'm sure we can talk about the tweaking and testing part of it in more depth and in more detail. And we may even have a second webinar just on the tweaking and testing aspects, okay? So now the biggest question is, how do I get started with this method? Now you also have to realize that this is talking about extreme domination of a niche. Do you have to do this? No, of course not. But if you want, and in some cases, it probably doesn't even make sense. For example, if I'm trying to do a local business, help a local business, I might do half of this or a fraction of this because I don't want to overwhelm them with traffic. So I might start out slower if I was helping a local business than if I'm sending to some kind of affiliate offer or CPA offer, because with that, the more traffic, the better, pretty much. So I'm going to start, like I said, with 12 total domains. I'm going to spread it across many IP addresses. In my case, I just went ahead and bought a dozen different hosting accounts, the small ones, and several of them I've had to beef up with more space on them. You're going to want a good sized pile of long tail keywords and a pile of main keywords. No more, at least 10, no more than 20. With the long tail keywords, I recommend at least 1,250 and no more than about 3,000. So like I told you before, you can choose to do less. I'm not saying you have to do this, but if you want, this is the method for that Cliff uses when he wants to totally dominate a niche and have it pretty well saturated. Now, one of the things that comes up a lot is, how do I choose a niche? Well, way back when we were doing affiliate sniper, we had a webinar or two on that topic. And we can, if it's demanded, we can cover that again, and choosing the right product, choosing the niche, and how do you go about doing some niche research. But that's not the purpose of tonight. So if that's something that you want to see in a future webinar, we'd be happy to cover it again. So we start with our 12 total domains. We have 12 hosting accounts, a good sized pile of long keywords, long tail keywords, at least 10 main.
There you go, Rod. You're on again, hopefully.
Okay. Is everybody following me so far with what they did see? And I'll try to pick it up from where I was before. Okay. And we started to talk about the 1-10-12 rule.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to use one. We start with one domain. We're going to end up with a total of 12 domains across 12 different hosting accounts, or you can always do less here. Remember, this is just the way to dominate. Now, you don't want, if you are doing, say, a local business, you may want to start out with significantly less than this, because you don't want to flood them with so much traffic they can't handle the business. So you can always start out slow and ramp it up. Now, back to the 1-10-12, just to make sure we understood that. I'm going to start with one main domain and build my campaigns and put approximately, each domain is going to have about 6 to 8 folders or campaigns in it. And then I'm going to have a total of 10 domains that I'm using to saturate the niche. And I'm going to keep 2 domains off to the side that I'm going to use for my testing and tweaking and deciding what my next niche is. That's basically what I can do. Real quickly here, I had Clip explain this again to me this morning because I wasn't real sure I totally grasped the concept of what these other 2 domains were for. Well, what he likes to do is build a few folders of just English. And if he gets some results from English, then he's pretty confident that he's going to get even more results when you spread them across more languages. My method would be a little bit different. I probably would choose 5 or 6 languages and put them on my test domain, see what kind of results I get and compare them to the others. Let's say we used an example of, let's say one of my intended or proposed niches is adult diapers, and another one is kitty litter. So I can run 6 folders with 6 different languages in both, and just see what kind of indexing is occurring, what kind of clicks am I getting. After of course I let it settle out and get past the bot clicks, just generally gauge how well that niche is performing. And then I'm going to take the best of the 2 and go build that out. Maybe I won't like either of the 2 and I'll try a different one. But those two domains, I use them strictly for putting up 5 or 6 folders on and then watching what happens. So that's how I kind of use testing and science to tell me what my next niche is going to be. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Moving on. So the 1-10-12, I'm using one main domain to start building my campaigns on. I'm going to spread them out across 10 domains. I keep 2 off to the side for testing and tweaking, and I'm going to use a total of about 12 different languages. I generally want to choose, you can Google the top 12 languages, or there's some lists. If you Google something like show me the top 12 languages for e-commerce, that'll get you a good list. And you can kind of just choose. If you combined all the lists that are going around, you probably would have 15 or 20, and you can just pick your favorite 12. So how do I start? I start with 12 total domains spread across many IP addresses. One reason we send you to 060 is he knows when he gets a Locustware customer that he should be giving you a separate IP address every time you order an account, separate from the previous ones in that account. He already knows that because he knows what we do. He's been doing mass page creation for a long time. So, and he doesn't have a problem with it. He's not going to start asking a lot of stupid questions. So I start with my 12 total domains, 12 hosting accounts, a good sized pile of long tail keywords, at least 1,250 and no more than about 3,000. And I start with 10 or so main keywords, no more than 20. Now by main keywords, what do you think I mean? Well, I'm looking at, if I knew nothing about the niche and I'm looking to just start learning some more, let's say it's yoga and I know nothing about yoga. So I can't put in, well, show me about this pose or that pose because I don't know any of those poses. I don't know what equipment I need. So I'm going to put the very most basic main keywords and probably the highest search volume keywords that I can find, like beginner yoga. Show me how to do yoga. Those kind of things. So I would grab me a pile of 10 or 20 of, if I knew nothing about the niche, what would I put in so I could start learning about the niche? And those are generally going to be the highest search volume main type keywords that you can find. And you want a pile of about 10 to 20 of those. Now, I mentioned, I don't know how much of this, I don't know exactly where I was when I got cut off. So I mentioned that niche research is a whole nother topic. And we have covered it previously in a webinar. You're welcome to go back and get a copy of that webinar. And if the demand is high enough, we may even cover it again and help you get some tricks and clues about how to do some proper niche research. Alex is asking, yeah, there you go. All right, so each domain, when we get all done, each of my 10 domains is going to have between 6 and 8 campaign folders in it. And next we'll talk about how do I rotate and disperse the main keywords? How do I rotate and disperse the long tail keywords? And what about languages? How do I know what language to put in? Now, what I'm going to have you do to start out with is you're going to end up with about a dozen campaigns before you graduate to multi-role. And because multi-role is there, and understand what I mean by multi-role, is the ability to run one campaign after another. You could do 3 or 4 or 5 campaigns consecutively. And now the software should be able to handle those. And even if it gets stuck in one, it moves on to the next one. So you could literally have if I'm doing a multi-role of say 4 campaigns, and each of them is 45,000, asking for 45,000 keywords. You can easily leave your machine running for more than 24 hours and just check on it periodically, see how it's going. And that could freeze you up some time to be getting your other machines working, work on other stuff, and start doing your niche research and preparing for what's going to be my next venture in my always be building type philosophy here. So we're going to talk about our first, how do I divide up the keywords? Just for purposes of illustration. And like I mentioned before, as you can see towards as I got less and less time left to prepare, I ended up with a lot of words and not very many pictures. but I'm just trying to get the concept across of what do you do and how do you do it. And so for purposes of illustration, I'm going to just label first my main keywords. Let's say I have 10 of them. I'll call them A through J. And my long tail keywords, I'll divide them into groups of about 220 or so. As you probably know, if you run OTP hybrid, if I put in 212 or any number higher than that into titles 1, and I don't put anything in titles 2, that's going to give me a total when I hit the calculate button. It should be over 45,000. We always want to allow a little bit of slop. So I grab like 220 or 225 or something like that. So I take my 1,250 and I divide them up into as many piles of 220 as I can fit in that. And even if I'm a few short, I can grab some from somewhere else. It doesn't matter. So let's say I end up having 6 groups of 220 or thereabouts. Well, that'd be a total of 1,320. I would just label those for purposes of illustration. Again, we'll call those A through F. So my first campaign, I'm going to do it in English. I'm going to use my first 4 biggest, baddest main keywords, and I'll call them A through D. And I use title group A, which long tail keywords and titles here, I mean the same thing. Okay. Easy enough, right? I do it run in English, pick my first 4 main keywords and my first group of long tail keywords. Second campaign. Sorry, just trying to go down one at a time here. Second campaign, I keep 3 of those main keywords and I drop in a 4th from our main pile. So I might be using B, C, and D. I dropped A and I bring in E. And each time I'm gonna continue to start with 4. I keep 3 of the 4 and I bring in and I introduce 1 new one. That way most of the main keywords are going to stay the same from campaign to campaign. And I introduce a little bit of difference by bringing in a 4th one. So my second campaign, I choose main keywords B through E. I choose title group B. Maybe I choose Spanish for this run. There's no set language. There's no set order of languages. I could choose any of my dozen. Third campaign, I'm now choosing main keywords C through F. Choose title group C. Choose another popular language such as French. Now you're starting to see a pattern develop here. Fourth campaign, main keywords D through G, title group D, and a different language. So what happens when I hit 5 or 6 of I'm running out of titles here. So what I do is maybe I'll choose 50 from title group A, 50 from title group B, and 100 from title group D. I'm just going to play mix and match till I've got a pile of about 225. Put them in, run them with a different language, a little bit different main keywords, and I'm going to continue to do this until I've got a total of a dozen campaigns. Everyone follow me so far? Now, as I mentioned, if we're going to be using multi-roles, Cliff, when he was first given these instructions, was saying, do 2 or 3 languages per run. But we have discovered that doing multi-roles don't work very well if we are having multilingual campaigns. So I highly recommend that you have a dozen, you pile up a dozen campaigns, just like I've described, and each one is 1 language. Then they perform very nicely on multi-roles. So I take, once I've got my dozen, I take between 6 and 8 of these and put them on domain 1. I take the remainder and I put them on domain 2. Then I'm going to start graduating the multi-role. I'll choose this one, that one, another one over here, and I'll just mix and match until I've got all 10 domains filled with between 6 and 8 campaigns. To do the math, that's about 350,000 if I do 8 on each domain, and I have 350 or 45K per run. That's 350K pages, 350,000 pages per domain, and I multiply that out times 10 domains. I'm now talking about 3.5 million pages in posts. Everyone follow me so far? And then that's pretty much the method. The other two, you can start playing with different ideas, different offers, different domains, and you could be running them and testing and deciding what your next niche is going to be. Yep, that's massive. Like I said, you don't have to do this much, but remember the title was, I'm showing you how to dominate your niche, and this is how you do it. So let's say you're tight on budget and you can't afford 12 hosting accounts and 12 domains. Well, start with less. Do what you can, start, and then reinvest what money you do make and continue to build out. That's the biggest thing. Like Marty says, just start. Do something. Yeah, somebody just asked, one domain, one hosting account. Yeah, we can use, later on, when we start covering many niches, we can put add-on domains on each. There, with Costas, he doesn't have any limit on how many domains that can fit on a single hosting account. I can add 2 or 3 or 4 more. The problem is going to be, I run out of disk space with 45,000 pages per campaign and 8 campaigns per domain. Now I'm starting to get, quite a bit of disk space used. And you probably could get away with a second domain and fill that up with 8 as well. And then again, you may have to, depending on the languages and a bunch of other factors, you may end up having to bump up the disk space on that, which also isn't very, you can bump it up from 10 to 20 gigs for a couple of bucks. Yes, do add-on domains and not subdomains, correct. So at this point, I think I've covered the method, and I'd like to make sure we have a chance to answer and field some questions. And obviously, you've got the world's best support team behind you, so we can help individually. We can figure out ways to, get if several people, if a number of people have the same kind of questions, we can hold another little group. Hopefully we'll find a webinar solution that works every time and do the best we can. Sure there is. Alex is asking, is there email addresses? Yes. Just send a ticket to support@locustware.com. And we all 3 hit that every day. We see the tickets and we pass them out. Any of the 3 of us could walk you through this method. Okay, good question. Somebody asked me, do we stick with .com domains, or should we get XYZ or whatever is cheap? When I was first doing this, that's one of the changes I talked about. When I was first doing this, I told you, Dad, just go get whatever's cheap. They all work the same. But after talking with Cliff more, he says, you know what? I find, just my personal experience, that .coms get me a lot better indexing. So let's see, I could save $7 and get a cheap one, and then it may or may not index, or I can go all in, get a .com domain. If I go to namecheap.com or namesilo.com, they're maybe about $7 or $8 each, and stick with the .coms. There's a very cool little if you're out of ideas on how can I get a domain with something to do with my keyword in it. Every time I try something, the .com is gone for it. Try leandomainfinder.com. Yes, Justine, I'd be happy to. I'm also going to, for anybody that wants it, I will make a handout out of this slideshow and let you ask questions whenever you have a chance. So I'd be happy to flip back. Do you know how far you needed me to go back? Henry's asking, would this work with Devastator as well as with hybrid? Sure, it will, but what you're losing, okay, there's a couple of things to stress here. One, it's real important that you don't just zone in on one language, like English, for example, and say, oh, I'll just do all mine in English. You're throttling back your Mercedes and saying, I'm only going to go 20 miles an hour in this thing. You're killing it. The power comes, the indexing and the ranking comes from the fact that you're using many languages. Now, the same somewhat goes for if I choose to use either Devastator or just Static Swarm, which only does static pages, I'm losing all the power of the interlinking that's going on behind the scenes that you don't even have to think about. And that's why we like the hybrid so well. In fact, Cliff has said a number of times, if you're using either of the previous tools, you're playing with a toy, and I'm trying to show you how to run a big old caterpillar. So you want to use hybrid if at all possible, and the reason being, you get the benefit of both. The WordPress pages, even though there's a small number, they continue to drip content, and you get the benefit of every time a new page is dropped, you're signaling Google, say, hey, Google, come look, I got some cool new content here. I'm keeping my stuff refreshed and up to date. And you lose that if you just do static pages. Likewise, if you just do WordPress pages, you lose the benefit of the static pages, which is why we created a program that, by the very word hybrid, means the best of both. If you have a hybrid vehicle, it's supposed to be the best of both a electric car and gasoline powered car. Yes, hybrid is in your Locustware software. Good question. Francis is asking if my main domain is in English and a good number of my pages are in other languages, will that affect it? No, not really. You just want to have a .com. You could have a .com in another language, but I recommend using domains that are in English. And like I said, if you find that tool called leandomainsearch.com, that's a great tool introduced by one of my friends in here, and it'll help you jog, if nothing else, jog your brain for what kinds of .coms are still out there available. Okay, somebody's asking me, how do I market a product in all these different languages if the product isn't available in those countries? How does it help? Well, it does still provide, the principle of using the languages, other languages, is Google, if you look up any topic, let's say underwater basket weaving, whatever, it could be an obscure or a very popular topic, doesn't matter. And you look at how many pages are out there competing in English. And that number of competing pages will dwarf any other language. It will be many, many times what the number of competing pages is in Japanese or Russian or Chinese or Spanish or any other language. Why? Because a majority of the internet's in English. A majority of the content is in English. But a majority of the searches are not done in English. Less than 50% of all searches are done in some other language. So, yes, there is still an advantage to doing other languages because it brings you ranking and it brings you indexing. Yes, do we, okay, lots of questions coming up. I don't know if I can field all of these. I may even let some of my esteemed and valuable team jump in and start to handle some of these. Doug?
Which question are you looking for here? I've been answering them on the...
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't see
chat
that. I was trying to just pick and choose them they're flying so fast by that I can't even read them before they're gone.
Okay. Well, Alex is asking, do we have access to keyword search, long and short tail software?
Sure.
Yes, there's a keyword tool in your link swarm software that's on your control panel.
Yeah, and there's a number of good free ones out there too. Keyword, I should say, what's the Uber Suggest?
Keywordtool.io.
Keywordtool.io, and then Keyword Pooper, and only using the S word.
Ask the Public.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you guys want to learn a bit about keywords, go spend a day or two on a blog called marketbold.com. It's run by a friend of ours named Jack Duncan, and that he's made keywords his specialty for the last few years, and that guy probably forgot more about keyword research than most of us will ever know. And so marketbold.com is a good website to go, and he gives away a ton of content. There's at least 2 keyword tools on there for free that you can get. And then there's one that I really like called Question Spy that he charges $27 for. Well worth it in my opinion. And he gives training with all of his tools. It's just, if I was going to choose one place to go edify myself on keyword research in a short period, and even niche research in a short period of time, I'd spend a few hours combing through his blog and all the content that he gives away and go make myself smarter.
Arnold's asking a question about possible issues of multi-role and many languages. There's not really any issues with that. When you're doing a multi-role, your campaign should only contain one language. If you want to do multiple languages, you just duplicate the campaign for however many languages you want to do. Just don't mix multi-role and multiple languages all at once.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. You said it better.
How do you evaluate a campaign success index? How are you tracking the index? Easy. You don't track the index. Just follow how many hits you're getting to your target URL. That's what you want to know, because that's where your money's going to be. You don't have to worry about indexing. You've got tens of thousands of pages out there now, and in some cases, millions. How are you going to track every keyword that those could be covering? You can't. So you don't worry about indexing for a keyword. You worry about how much traffic is coming your way. That's the only thing to spend money on, or spend time on measuring.
Steven's asking me, where do proxies fit into this? And my answer, they don't. You don't need them. You really don't. I can't see any use for them.
Peter's asking, can he apply hybrid to an existing site?
Sure you can.
You could, probably not what we would recommend, because what you want to do is to create 10 to 12 OTP sites that are separate and apart from your main site and point at it with all those different domains. That's where you're going to get the most traffic.
So a couple of people I see are kind of overwhelmed, and they want to look back, and we obviously we did try to record it. We'll know in a little while how well the recording turned out. Of course, it's going to be broke up into 2 pieces at least, and we'll it remains to be seen what the quality of that recording is and how much you'll be able to get from it. I can make a handout of my little slide presentation where I told you what to do. And I imagine that over time, I'll probably get some help from some graphics people that can kind of mind map this out or help visualize it with illustrations and pictures and what have you. Because I get some people don't learn well from just seeing words. I get that.
Justine's asking that exact question. She says she's a picture person.
Yes. Well, perhaps, Justine, as you learn it with me, you can help suggest some nice illustrations and mind maps and pictures. Because me, just from my background, I always learned to learn things from words, and so it became a strength of mine. But I realize lots of other people are different. But I look at a mind map and I go, why did you need to put all these words in circles? It doesn't do me any good. You know, I don't need circles and arrows to be able to follow some steps. And it's just the way it is.
Lulu says she doesn't really understand a multi-role. Please explain.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say a multi-role is where you create a campaign and you save it, but you don't run it. And then you create a second campaign and you save it, but you don't run it. Then a third, a fourth, however many you want to do. Then you come back to the software and say you want to create a multi-role and then pick all the campaigns you want it to do. And what it does is it will do the first one. And when it's finished, it does the second one. And when it's finished, it does the third one. And that way you don't have to be sitting there running this campaign, waiting till it stops, and your machine could be sitting idle for 3 or 4 hours before you get back to it, and then starting the next one. This way they just go one after the other. So theoretically, you can have it running for days or weeks.
Siegfried's asking, I've been doing little campaigns of 3,000, and you recommend 40,000? Yeah, 45 actually. So, yeah, doing a campaign of 3,000, I'm not going to say it's useless or anything like that, but man, I've got I think I've got a picture to show what you're doing. Is my screen still on here?
Mm-hmm.
In shown?
You bet.
All right, let me see if I can find my pictures here.
While you're doing that, Rod, I'm just going to mention somebody's asking, is there going to be a webinar showing how to actually set up and run the program? There's actually several videos on our forum. So if you haven't familiarized with our forum, it's at locustware.com/forum. Do go in and check out in the software section under OTP. You'll find a section called Chet's videos, and Chet has done a great step-by-step of going through the whole process, setting it up, and so on.
So when you're using the OTP to run a little run of 3,000, you're still moving some dirt, but you're playing with one of these. And Cliff is inviting you to come step up to learning how to drive and use oh, come on. Doesn't want to show all of a sudden. I had it. I know it's in this folder here.
How many campaigns per multi-role recommended? Typically, you would do 6 to 8 at a time. That should be more than enough.
Oh, there it was. Cliff is inviting you to learn to drive one of these. That illustrates it about as clearly as I can get across.
May just be me, but I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, well, I'll have to get a bigger picture of it anyway. It's a little bitty picture. Basically, I had a picture of an earth mover that 20 people are standing in the bucket of. And did you see the little plastic shovel? Which would you rather use if your job is to go move a bunch of dirt? So, did I lose everybody?
No, we're all still here.
Okay. Let me get back to the tab.
Okay, somebody asked a good question I don't think you touched on, Rod, was if it takes a while for the sites to index, how would we promote affiliate offers that come on within the next week or so?
Ooh, good question.
So the whole concept of organic traffic platform is to build traffic networks. So let's say we build a traffic network that has to do with email marketing. And over time, it starts to index. That's when the power really starts to show, because now we just tell it to point the traffic at the next offer that comes up. And then when that one's done, we can point it at another one. And we can continue to keep using our traffic network to point at niche-specific offers. So that's how you would do something that's coming up. You must already have built a traffic network and have it working.
Now, bear in mind that as we talked about at the event, it can be an unkind thing to send massive amounts of cold traffic to somebody's brand new product launch offer directly. You're best off using some kind of landing page and then sending them from the landing page. Those people that click through the landing page and still are interested, they're much more likely to buy. Otherwise, what you do by sending a whole bunch of traffic, cold traffic to an offer, is you kill their conversion rates. And everybody likes to brag about the conversion rates when an offer first comes, because that they use that to then attract more affiliates and get the big boys interested in coming to play. And if you kill their refund rate, you're actually doing them at if you kill their conversion and eat earnings per click and all those other metrics, you're actually doing them a disservice. Which, you know, I can think of a few marketers that wouldn't bother me at all. But, you know, for the fly-by-nighters, oh, wow. But if it's a marketer that you like him and respect him and want to become his buddy, you don't want to do that to him.
And I'll remind everybody that in the tutorials tab on your hybrid software, Cliff's got sections for mass marketing and launch jacking and lots of information in there that you need to go in and read.
And we're continuing to work on and build tutorials all the time in here in our, you know, in time when we're not actually helping somebody. We don't sit here on our hands. A lot of people ask me, love to ask me, exactly, you know, show me your campaigns and show me the ones that are working well. Well, if you looked at my days, sometimes they're 14-hour days just helping people. And so I'm 60 years old. I don't have much more than about 14 hours to give to anything. And I get stiff and sore just from sitting in the chair for as many as 14 hours. So, there's a lot of times when the answer to that is not much. I built it enough to know how to do it. I built it enough to know it works and how to saturate a niche. But as far as having big empires built across the internet, no, I don't have that yet. Yeah, he's really 45. Yeah. All right. Well, I feel 60 anyway. And since my birth date was in 57. You work 14-hour days, even 6 in a row, and you're, you know, in my mind, I'm not Cliff. Cliff could do 48 hours at a whack and then come back in 5 hours and do another 48 or 72. But he's a machine. So I told him right when I started working with him, I can't match his hours. Yeah, maybe I do need yoga, I'm sure. Yeah, Marty, you're still a pup though. You get my age and you might slow it down to only 14. Yeah, you're a young 50. And 10 years makes a big difference, trust me. I was feeling pretty young and spiffy at 50 that, yeah. Anyway, guys, that's all the content I've got. We're here. If you've got more questions, I will be putting out a handout of some sort to give you what I put together here, and we'll make that available probably on the forum and maybe even in the room. We'll make a download to it or something like that. So we'll make it available. We'll also have the recording of the webinar, good, bad, or indifferent. And thank you for being here. Thanks for making it interesting and fun to do a webinar with not to an empty room. And rock on.
Don't forget, everybody, if you've got any further questions, please send them in to us at support@locustware.com.